Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by DraftKings. Yep, we are no longer part of John Boy Media. We are presented by DraftKings. Just kidding. The two go hand in hand. We got a long show today. We have Jordan Raanan of ESPN coming on the show later. So we're not going to hit you with too much banter to start because it was a long interview. Justin,
Fun.
how are you, Justin?
Oh, I'm great. We just had a really nice conversation with Jordan Raanan of ESPN. If you're mad that we had him on, listen to it because it was a lot of fun. Jordan's a very controversial figure amongst the beat reporters, especially as of late. But he's an authentic guy. He's a really good guy. We had a lot of fun this interview. We talked a lot of Giants towards the beginning part, and then we had fun towards the second half. And if you're anything like me, who wants to hear some fun stuff over the offseason, you're really going to love the entire interview. So I'm excited, Bobby Skinner.
Yeah, and I've always said I think Jordan Run is fair. I think he's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think he's over and we've never been shy to say if we don't like somebody. But I think he's fair. So sometimes it's gonna be negative, sometimes it'll be positive. So and then we talked about, social media and when he had a tweet that pissed a lot of people off. So we talked about that. So I thought it was a good interview, and obviously talked about the Giants off season and what brought back Dave Gettleman, the Jason Garrett complex. So it was good. Justin, you want to just kick it to it?
Let's kick it to it.
Well, you know who I said this episode was brought to you by? Well, guess what? It's not quite time for the madness that is college basketball in March. Because guess what? It's not March, people. But that doesn't mean the fun has to wait. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is giving all new players the chance to cash $100. New customers can bet $1 or any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week. And if your team makes it, rain you cash $100. Wow. That's right. All it takes for one three-pointer being hit by your chosen team to turn $1 into $100. Sounds like a no-brainer. You want to know why? Because you don't need a brain to do this. This slam dunk of an offer won't be around forever. So head to the App Store now, download the DraftKings Sportsbook, and get in on all the action. If basketball isn't for you, it should be. DraftKings Sportsbook, it has daily odds in hockey, soccer, and so much more. I know we have a lot of soccer fans. DraftKings has paid over $7 billion to its customers since 2012. That's a lot, okay? So they know a thing or two about big paydays. They just do. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code JOHNBOY to get your shot to turn $1 into $100 when you bet on any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week. That's promo code JOHNBOY for new customers to get a shot at 100-1 odds on any basketball team to hit a three-point shot. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, Minnesota, or Virginia only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. Winnings paid out in four $25 free bets. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana 1-800-9-WITH-IT, or in Virginia call 888-532-3500. And now it's Jordan Raanan of ESPN. All right, we now welcome on from ESPN, covers the New York Giants, obviously, Jordan Raanan. What's going on, man? We're catching you running pretty hot. We've seen you, going at it. You wrote a nice article today, and so you've been going to battle for it all day. What's going on?
Yeah, you know what? I actually didn't realize it was going to run on Monday of a holiday weekend, and I have to bring everyone down on a Monday. Like, I wrote it last week, and I thought it was just going to run sometime this week. But little did I know, Monday of a holiday weekend, and it's like a little dagger to Giants fans' hearts. But you know what? I know how big and important this is. I did my hair this morning, and I think it's like maybe the second time this year that I've actually gotten dressed, and I'm actually wearing jeans and did my hair. So I know this is how big this is, and that this is a big time spot that I had to be ready.
I'm just saying, you got an up and coming podcast. We're number one, so we're we like to shine some light on the little guys. So we
absolutely. Well, I gotta try to ingratiate myself with the YouTube community. I know I don't have a lot of friends there recently.
We'll get into all of it. It is weird though that we moved to YouTube this year. Obviously we have but it is weird now. It's like, oh, I'm a YouTuber. So now it's like when people ask me what I do for work, I'm like, I just say broadcasting and just hope it's like I'm not, Uncle David. I'm not a YouTuber. It's on YouTube, but I'm not a YouTuber.
Well, I have a friend who does fantasy and DFS for a living. And so when he goes home and he tells his friends he does, he doesn't play fantasy for a living. He doesn't do, DFS. he's in predictive analytics. So same concept right there. You know?
Yeah.
You gotta spice it up for the boomer generation, you know?
Exactly. And I still do, I still have some, like side hustle. And they're like, what's your other job? And it's every time just broadcasting. It's radio, it's podcasts. It's basically the same thing as radio. So, but we're gonna get into all that. But let's start with some Giants talk. Once again, thanks for coming on.
Anytime,
I'm gonna hit you with the heavy stuff first.
Let's go. Bring it on. I'll answer.
Joe Judge, first year, everyone likes him, but it was an up and down year. It's a weird year. You wrote about it in your article today. That came out yesterday when people are listening to this. They were fighting for the division. Watch the last Sunday night football of the year. Determine if they went to the playoffs or not. But also 6-10, and you like Joe Judge, but there's also there's like powers that be, like Jason Garrett. Like that's where I want to get to. What is that relationship with Joe Judge and Jason Garrett? Because it can't be perfect because his love for Patrick, and then what happened with Colombo midseason.
Well, here's what I know. Okay, there was tension last year. I mean, their offense wasn't good. Like, what do you think it's going to be like when their offense is struggling like that? It wasn't running smoothly. Joe Judge coaches his coaches hard, and he's admittedly says this. He coaches his coaches hard, just like he coaches his players hard. If he can't hold his coaches to that standard, how could he then look at his players in the eyes and say, I'm going to hold you to a different standard than I hold my own coaches to? So their offense, I mean, by any standard, was woefully unproductive this year, right? I mean, you could whip up any number you want. It's hard to come up with something that says, oh, you know what? The offense showed a lot of, they showed a lot of upside, or it looked promising. No, it was a rough season offensively. There's reasons for it. And not having Saquon, obviously a huge part of that, and a young quarterback who was up and down, but it didn't go well. So yeah, there was some tension at times there, but it's not to the point where they didn't get along, Joe Judge and Jason Garrett. So do I think Joe Judge wanted to make some changes to the offense this offseason? Absolutely. And I think you're seeing that. I reported over this holiday weekend, Freddie Kitchens is kind of taking another role. So in my mind, he's almost like, and this is just me surmising, that he's almost like sort of the secondary offensive coordinator right now. Similar to like Jeremy Pruitt was hired. He's in like a senior defense role. He's going to be like the secondary defensive coordinator. But that's not a knock on Pat Graham, right? That's just they want as many people collaborating in the process as possible. So Freddie Kitchens is going to play a bigger role, whether it's, being more involved in the running game, of the design of the running game, or game planning, or even if it's a passing game. I think you're going to see that. Jerry Shaplinski, the quarterback's coach, also a veteran guy who Joe Judge trusts implicitly and knows very well from his New England days. Another guy, I think you're going to see him more involved. So was Joe Judge happy with the offense and the job that Jason Garrett did overall? I think, how can you sit there and say, sure, he did a great job. The offense wasn't good. So that's kind of where I think that sits. And, it's going to come down to, they have to be successful this year. If it doesn't go well this year, you're going to see a big shakeup on the offense. It seems inevitable. It seems like that writing is on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. They went from the 19th ranked offense with the exact same roster besides Saquon Barkley to the 31st. And, Saquon's obviously, a much debated topic, but I don't think he makes the offense drop from, what we thought was, going into the season, Jordan, our conversation was, can the defense be good enough to let the offense outscore people? Yeah. And that, Jones threw 24 touchdowns in 12 games, and to go from what they saw this year, kind of brutal. So with that, I mean,
the funny part is that Saquon was injured last year too. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, there was games where he had 1 yard.
Saquon wasn't Saquon most of that year.
Yeah, there was games where, Daniel Jones threw 4 touchdowns in a game where Saquon Barkley had 1 yard. And like you said, they, obviously towards the end of the season, in the beginning when he was healthy, they looked good, but it wasn't. So you mentioned Pruitt. We kind of assumed he was going to be the outside linebacker coach. So can we still expect news for that spot, or is Pruitt acting in there? Or are they promoting somebody else within?
I don't know that for a fact, but the people I talked to, it's been probably a week or two. But I think he's kind of going to be in the role that Brett Bielema was. I think that's pretty much where he's going to fall into. So I think the likelihood is he probably does handle outside linebackers on top of having a bigger role. I think Brett Bielema was like senior defensive assistant / outside linebackers. I think was his title. They did are all just titles. But I think what we're learning here, and trust me, Joe Judge thinks very highly of Jeremy Pruitt. Remember, a guy that they were together on the Alabama staff, same as the new offensive line coach. I mean, you see the connections here. These are guys that basically understand how they're going to get coached because they grew up in systems where Nick Saban was hard on everybody, right? Or Bill Belichick was really hard on his coaches. So that sort of is the common thread here. And Jeremy Pruitt, it falls under that category. Joe Judge worked on a staff with Jeremy. Jeremy Pruitt was actually ahead of him, I believe, at that time. Right? He was an actual coach when Joe Judge was, a low-level, cheap labor kind of guy for Nick Saban back in the day. So he thinks very, very highly of him. You're going to see him, I believe, coach the outside linebackers. Not 100% on that, but still definitely have a bigger role and be involved in construction of game plan, coaching multiple positions. Because remember, he has a long history in dealing with defensive backs. So I think you're going to see him working with that defensive backfield as well, for sure.
Yeah, him like Bielema are kind of like overqualified for the spots they're in.
Right.
Like I couldn't imagine running an entire college program. And then it's like, all right, kind of focus on like not even linebackers, like half of the linebacker group with like the outs. I couldn't imagine the difference in responsibilities in that.
That's why I don't think, and from what I understand, it's not just, okay, you're outside linebackers. No, he's going to have a bigger role. He's going to have a significant involvement with game planning, maybe even handle like, the back end of stuff. And then the Giants are looking to have a very collaborative process. They have a very qualified staff now, if you think about it. I mean, the offensive line coach was basically, he was a guy that seemed to be on track to become a college football head coach, right? Yeah. I mean, he was just an offensive coordinator. He's had a lot of success. His resume is very impressive. Jerry Shaplinski, the quarterback's coach, he seems to be, getting close to being an offensive coordinator. You saw Tyke Tolbert, the wide receivers coach, get an interview to be an offensive coordinator. And on the defensive side of the ball, same thing. I mean, Jerome Henderson's a guy who was sort of like a defensive coordinator in Atlanta, like handling, I think he was a pass game coordinator, something like that. Jeremy Pruitt, and then you have Pat Graham, obviously. So you're having a lot of guys who they're taking these jobs because they're not being told you're just going to go, coach this specific group. No, they're going to be involved on a bigger scale. And like I said, game planning being a big part of that. And it's a way more collaborative effort maybe than other composition of coaching staffs. I think that's what I'm expecting this year.
Right. So
now I love to hear that, Jordan. And this has been a theme that Giants fans have kind of wanted all year, where, giving Joe Judge more power, kind of asking as more time goes on and as more success the team has, I put success in quotes, but as more time goes on, how much more power can we get away with giving Joe Judge? Yet the most important part of the staff, you can argue, I would even argue sometimes bigger than a head coach is who's deciding how your offense is going to go and who's calling those plays. It's an offensive league. It's a scoring league. So all of that feels great, but it's just at least in my opinion, the black cloud over the organization is Jason Garrett. And how much a part of that collaboration is he a part of? We saw in the Senior Bowl, Pat Graham. Yeah.
He's still a big part of me. He's the offensive coordinator, for God's sakes. I mean, he's going to play a big role. Is it going to maybe, Freddie Kitchens is obviously going to be more involved. Okay. Right. We might see, we did see a different look. Remember, Freddie Kitchens was the offensive coordinator for one game. Mm-hmm. Right. And they lost that game, I believe. What game was it? It was right after Cleveland. Okay. And there was a bunch of plays. You saw a more aggressive offense, I believe. At least I did.
I chart the plays that have two routes that are deeper concepts. That was the most I did the entire season with Colt McCoy at quarterback. So they had a couple
opportunities, and you probably saw this. They had a couple opportunities to hit some big pass plays and big passes. Now they didn't complete them. their quarterback, they had a backup quarterback at the time, Colt McCoy, obviously, didn't have his arm. You could see it on a couple of the throws. He couldn't get the ball there quite fast enough. A couple big plays were broken up. I thought there was some opportunities there. They designed some opportunities in that game to get the ball down the field. And I think if Daniel Jones was there, they had a chance to hit a couple big ones in that game. And so I think that's sort of where we're heading. Jason Garrett still being heavily involved, but you're going to see other people and Freddie Kitchens' hands and, Jerry Shaplinsky and Tyke Tolbert and even the new offensive line coach. You're going to see them have a much bigger role.
Yeah, like I said, I chart those throws, and that was the most aggressive. And they scored 6 points, but, it was 3 red zones. They, went for that fake field goal, another 4th down on one they didn't get. So they actually moved the ball kind of well in that game with Colt McCoy compared to the rest of the season. And then you saw the next 2 games against Baltimore and Dallas, them kind of open it up again. So I think my thought and a lot of thoughts of Giants fans going into that is like, how much is this Joe Judge's offense? Like, is this Joe Judge's offense? And I think that game answered the question that it kind of was more of Jason Garrett. But we'll move off the.
Real quick, this happens all the time. When you have a coach who, let's say you spend your whole life coaching defense, okay, and then you get a head coaching job. And I was in Philadelphia. Jim Johnson was Andy Reid was the coach there. Jim Johnson was the defensive coordinator. Andy Reid spends his whole life coaching offense, right? Andy Reid gets hired by the Eagles. He was a young, unknown guy from Green Bay. He was a quarterback coach. He hires Jim Johnson to be his defensive coordinator at the time. Jim Johnson's a guy who was very well regarded in the NFL, had coached defense for, 30 years, 30, 40, 50 years. Andy Reid, who has never coached defense, doesn't know more defense than a guy like Jim Johnson. So it's the same with all these head coaches. You spend, at least most of them, you spend so much time in one area, you need that guy to be like sort of the head coach of that specific group. And it's Jason Garrett in this instance. Joe Judge hasn't spent his whole career coaching offense. He can give points. He can tell them what direction he wants to go in, but he needs to have someone that he can rely on and trust on. And that Jason Garrett's in that role.
So you're saying, speaking of that, was Joe Judge basically coaching how much was he involved with the O-line in those 3 weeks with because part of me is like, was it embellished a little bit, when it says that he, focused on the O-line? The myth I have in my head is that Googe was in his ear beforehand telling him what to do. Like, is there anything we missed from that whole Mark Colombo saga?
No, I think it's over embellished. I mean, Joe Judge wasn't sitting there coaching the offense. He has way more things to do than sit there and coaching the offensive line full time. I mean, was he giving more suggestions? Was he openly butting heads with Mark Colombo? Yeah, absolutely. Players definitely noticed. They're like, these 2 guys were going at it on the field at times in front of them. So they could see it, but that Joe Judge wasn't doing everyday coaching of the offensive line. He's got way bigger things to do. So I think it was over embellished a little bit in that regard. Look, he wasn't intending to replace Mark Colombo. Right. That thing just blew up though, and he's like, "Oh God, we have to replace him now." And that, yes, what were they about to bring in Googe to help out and try and get things moving in the direction that Joe Judge wanted him in regards to technique? Because that's the thing we have to think about, and that's part of the thing with this whole offensive line. They basically switched technique in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So these guys, these offensive linemen, and there's some young guys there. You're asking them to go from one way of working and switch it midseason to what Joe Judge wanted and what you've seen over the years in New England and with Googe in the past, and that's sort of the way they're going to go now. So yeah, it was a tough year for those guys for sure.
I mean, and they legit changed their entire running, technique as well, but they changed, like, they weren't pulling guys and trap, like they were basically just blocking shit up. You remember the Steelers game? They just weren't blocking the backside and stuff like that. So
I think you saw a major change there, and that's the direction that we're going to going forward. I mean, it's going to look more like it did in the second half of the year.
Right.
Also, they designed the offense, and I was told this before the season, for Saquon Barkley. I mean, the offense was built around Saquon. So they wanted to run a lot of outside zone and stuff, and then Saquon's gone, and they're not running outside zone with Wayne Gallman all day. So all of a sudden that's gone. And you kind of have to make a real quick adjustment there.
Yeah. Well, the offense built for Saquon had like 4 rushing yards in the first game. So it was it was brutal to start.
That would have come around though, because that was
I know
at the time that healthy Pittsburgh defense was the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, it was. They also just didn't block the backside too. Like I don't want to get into the ins and outs, but Justin.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk Gettleman really quick.
Yeah, we're hitting you with the heavy stuff first.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
I'm all for it. Let's go.
Heavy stuff
Gettleman
first, and then I always like to laugh. Maybe like the second part of the interview. This stuff's the boring stuff, in my opinion. All right.
Well, no, you might laugh. Right, we might be laughing right now as we get to the Gettleman subject.
Well, this is a funny question. This is a funny question. So, what kept, at least whether it's your opinion or maybe some things that you heard, what kept Dave Gettleman here, since they basically did come out and say there have been missteps that were made in the past, some major missteps that were made in the past, whether they were subliminally mentioning some things over other things, but they talked about 2018. What kept Dave Gettleman here after this 2020 season? Was it that 2020 free agency class and draft class? Was it, being one game away from the division, even though that's not the best reasoning? So what have you been hearing? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it was the one game for the division. I think it was more, thank God, right? I mean,
yeah.
If I came here and told you that, you'd be banging your head right now against the desk. From talking to people, you really get the impression that it was that they think, okay, our process of getting players this offseason, the way it worked with him and Joe Judge and the collaborative effort in his coaching staff, because the coaching staff had a lot of input, by the way, way more, I think, than the past. That in regards to personnel, I mean, they always have input, but there's a question of how much does the personnel department listen to the coaches? That's the same everywhere around the NFL. Coaches always have input; they're always doing work, but then sometimes coaches just make suggestions and they're just brushed off, and the personnel department makes moves. Like DeAndre Baker was a guy that they drafted basically without a ton of input from the defensive staff at the time. I mean, I remember asking some people on that defensive staff, like, what'd you know? And they're like, we didn't really look at him we weren't asked that much about, to look into him that much, so, and that's how you end up with mistakes. But so I think this past year, the coaching staff was a lot more involved in regards to their opinion taken more seriously. And you saw guys, you could tell, like, look at the guys that they got. They stayed away from sort of like the big flashy name, right? They did that the first time, like Golden Tate, Nate Solder. Even though if you talk to people around the league, Nate Solder, they knew Nate Solder everybody knew Nate Solder wasn't a great player around the league. And and when he got that money, people around the league that I talked to, like pretty much universally, were all like, that's a lot of money for him. He's an average player, And then Golden Tate was just a totally flawed signing. It made no sense whatsoever. And this year, when they made moves, you could see the moves. They stayed away from the flashy guys and went for guys that they thought fit. They knew they needed to fill the bottom of the roster, that the roster was incredibly thin. So we're not going after Jadeveon Clowney. When it was brought up, they were like, no. We're not going after a guy who's got an injury question and we don't know what we're getting, and he's going to cost a lot of money. We need to get more quantity but quality players that fit what we're doing, the Kyler Fackrells of the world. Think about the way they handled and I know it was partially because McKinney got hurt, but the Logan Ryan signing, they waited that out, and then added that they added him in training camp. It started, I believe, at that point already.
Yeah.
So these are smarter moves in regards to, they all just made more sense, right? So the fact that the ownership saw this, okay, our thought process and our whole 2020 offseason, the way we went about building the roster just was much better. And we liked the way it worked this year. We think that's the way it's going to be moving forward. So we're going to go another year with Dave Gettleman. Now, if it blows up this year, you're kind of running out of chances here. I mean, we're talking about 4, 5, and 6 wins, right? In 3 years. Mm-hmm. So 15 wins, at some point you got to produce. 8-8, they got to get to 8-8 around there this year. They really do. I mean, you can't have a losing record again and sell your fan base. So he's next in line. Everybody kind of knows it. Common sense says it. So I think that's where we stand right now with that.
Yeah, it seemed like Judge bought him some time, and I don't know if they gave him a total clean slate, but he did. It seemed that he did 2020 well. What can we expect now with a weird cap situation? Two defensive tackles who everybody likes, but are both going to be expensive if you pair them together. An expensive Zeitler, and then a promise that we're going to get weapons. Like what? Like this is a free agency where I have no idea what to expect.
I think again, the philosophy is, and this was kind of what I was writing and hinting about, and this is not just me, throwing it against the wall. This is an informed opinion. I think you're going to see a similar philosophy to last year, right? Where you're not going to see them just go after the big splashy guy and spend a ton of money on guys. And the reality is when you're spending money on guys in free agency, they're available in free agency because they come with questions, right? I mean, the clean stud guys don't get to free agency very often unless there's some sort of, market, I don't know how to say it, market inefficiency, right? That forces it to happen. Those guys just don't get there that often. So I think, again, you're going to see quantity, granted what they think is quality and quantity, over sheer, star quality. So rather than go and sign Yannick Ngakoue, who's going to cost a lot of money and is a pretty substantial name, you might see guys at the lower end. Now, let me say this about the Giants cap. And I know, first of all, most people have no idea how the cap works. Okay.
I don't.
And
this one thing I plead the ignorance on.
I admittedly don't. I know more than most because I've done a lot of research on it over the years, but I still admittedly also don't really understand it. Let's not think the Giants are strapped against the cap, okay? Where is their money? Who do they have signed long-term that's super big money? They don't even have a quarterback who's signed a big contract. So they have plenty of money, okay? They can work money if they need to work money, especially down the line, because who's signed 2 to 3 years down the line on this team to a substantial contract?
Yeah.
They don't even have any big money guys. So let's not pretend this team is cap strapped. Okay. I know people are gonna be like, they only have $8 million. They only have this one. This team can move money.
All right, shut up for a second, Jordan Raanan. Hey, fellas, we're in the thick of winter and a storm's a brewing. It looks like 1 to 3 inches are in the forecast when you trim that hibernation bush that's taking place in your pants. Luckily, especially if you're in Texas right now, I feel bad for them. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped specialize in products to make sure you're walking around town with beautiful snowballs, just like in Texas, even though it's a freaking it's a national emergency in Texas right now. And I feel like people from the north are downplaying it the same way people in Florida downplay hurricanes up north. Manscaped is here to provide the best tools for your grooming experience, offering precision engineered tools for your family jewels. How about that? Just making rhymes out here. Listen, we've said it with this ad. It really is a lifesaver. Like, I have always been someone who's cheap, and now I am not. Like, Manscaped has ruined my shaving techniques, my shaving habits. Now it's like, man, you can stay on top of it. You got no excuse. It's easy. Okay, you don't have to get the 2-blade razors from Walmart and be super careful. Kind of just let it ride. So, I mean, go to Manscaped. And guess what, Justin?
What?
Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. They also have a ton of other amazing men's hygiene projects on the website, from disposable mats for your pubes to foot deodorant. I mean, they got everything. Like, they really do have everything. Even stuff that makes me uncomfortable saying on the podcast.
Yeah.
Right, Jordan Raanan? Yeah, man. Okay. All right, cool. So again, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. and use code GIANTS. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code GIANTS. Thanks, Manscaped, for making our winter wieners look so good. Let's talk about John Jerry's winter wiener. All right, sounds good, Jordan Raanan.
And move it down the line if they need to, very easily. There's plenty of money available. Now, every team's going to have to deal with this, the fact that the cap is lower than everybody expected. But that's going to create opportunities. And this is where I think you should expect the Giants also to be very active. There will be some good quality players available, veteran guys, this offseason, way more than usual, for rather cheap prices. Cheap is a very relative term here, okay? So rather cheap prices, because of teams are strapped. There are teams that are legitimately strapped against the cap. You know, the New Orleans Saints, who have like tons of guys signed to big contracts. You know, I mean, they must have like the Rams. They must have like 6 or 7 guys who have bigger deals than the Giants. And down the line too, tons of future money. The Giants don't even have those guys. I mean, who's their highest paid guy? Because Leonard Williams isn't under contract right now,
Tate's
right?
Gone.
Yeah.
Zeitler, I guess.
I mean, Kevin Zeitler is $10 million. I mean, top quarterbacks in the league make 40. So the Giants' top contract is a guy who makes $10 million right now. And teams are paying their quarterbacks, the premium quarterbacks are $40 million a year. Top players at wide receiver, defensive line, they're making over 20 a year, you know, like, so the Giants, let's not get carried away. They'll be able to create money if they need to, and they could be pretty active. Now, if they really want to, they could bring back those 2 defensive linemen, Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson. What's going to be the biggest factor here? I think my voice just cracked, by the way.
It happens, man. We're all young out here. You
know? The biggest factor is going to be just how much are they looking for? Just how much, like, are they deals that make sense for the Giants? If there's 2 deals, you know, they're kind of mutually exclusive. If the deals on their own merit make sense for the Giants now and long term, I think you could see them both back. Now, Leonard Williams has a lot of bargaining power. He says he wants to stay, doesn't care about money, but dude, the guy has a ton of bargaining power because the position the Giants put themselves in by working this whole thing backwards. So, I mean, they just said to him, you're worth $16.5 million. We're going to pay you that off half a sack season. So he's going to say, what am I worth now? 11.5. You thought I was worth 16.1, 16.2, whatever the exact number is, off half a sack. So what am I worth now?
You see, Jordan, this is where the Giants get very analytically advanced by saying that sacks don't matter. So it's all about your pressures, and your pressures were consistency. Yeah. So people don't give the Giants credit. People don't give the Giants credit for being an advanced organization.
We knew your pressures. Yeah. They'll use the sacks again. That sacks thing, that stupid sacks line. People use it conveniently when it works for you. Either way, it's like when you don't have guys that can reach the quarterback, they're like, sacks are overrated. And when you have guys that can get to the quarterback, you're like, who doesn't need sacks? It's a negative play where you lose yards on top of the quarter, you know, on top of a down. So very convenient.
So, all right, enough with these. You know, we were done with your insider information. Well,
okay.
Let's get to some stuff you know 100%. Which player is the easiest to talk to on the Giants?
The easiest to talk to. Wow.
Or the one you enjoy talking to the most?
Eli Penny's a good dude. I like him a lot. Leonard Williams is actually a very interesting guy as well. Haven't gotten to know him that well because remember we weren't in the locker room.
Yeah.
This past year, I do enjoy talking to Saquon. Not the easiest to track down, but when you do,
unless you're Mike Tyson.
Whoa,
Did you see the clips from that? That was brutal.
What the heck is that?
I've never seen a man so awkward in an interview before as Saquon in that.
Yeah, Saquon is very Hollywood. You know, the funny part about Saquon, he's a lot more Odell than people realize. Like, he's very Hollywood. He likes to go to LA. He likes to go out there in the offseason. Now, he knows how to handle himself a lot better publicly.
I think he's Odell without the finger pointing.
Yeah, he's Odell without the public comments. Like he knows what to say publicly and how to, you know, say the right things publicly. Like exactly. Like he's totally good with that. Not that there's anything wrong with either way, because honestly, I think they're both good guys. I like talking to Odell too. I always enjoy talking to Odell. So yeah, those are some of the guys. You know, it's such a new roster, and we didn't get in the locker room this year, so it's crazy that we haven't had those. Like I never met Blake Martinez, like never. So yeah, those are the guys that come to my mind first. Logan Ryan, I haven't met him personally, but from the conversations we've been able to have, even over Zoom and stuff, and from everyone told me, it seems like just a dynamite guy, easy guy to talk to, relate to, and get to know.
Who'd you vote for media good guy?
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one.
So you were the one person who didn't vote for Logan Ryan, is what you're saying.
There were a couple. I think there were 2 or 3 non-votes for Logan Ryan, so I was one of them.
Okay.
It's good enough. It's going to plead the fifth. Plead the
I don't
fifth.
want to. I don't want to out myself on that one.
That's why it's there. Whenever we interview, whether it's a player or reporter, this is something.
You guys
I
getting
like
me in trouble on that one, by the way.
No. We forgot.
Rosenblatt said we're gonna ask everybody. I think the media. It's the one thing I'd like to poke fun at. It's like the media good guy award. We were thinking about making an award for the media good guy, and then vote on you guys.
Okay. I mean, I doubt I'm going to be in the top of that category, but
it depends.
Depends on who you talk to.
I don't have that tact. That's not my kind of thing right there.
But whenever we try to interview, whether it's a player or whether it's not a coach, whenever player or media member, there's something that I like to ask, and it's kind of like a similar question. But what is something about an NFL locker room, whether it is how, players interact with the media or who usually spills the beans, or just something about how a locker room operates? What is something about an NFL locker room that the casual average fan doesn't know? Because usually, football is such a short sport in relation to the other major sports, where I feel like we don't really even get to know the team during the one season, and then a lot of them are gone come the next year.
I tell this story to a lot of people, and you probably do realize it, but you don't really realize the extent to that it is. So I remember a time, and I got along really well. John Jerry, I'm an asshole, okay? I'm not a good guy. All right, so I get along with guys that most of the time, most people, you might have to edit that. I don't know what your rules are here.
No, you're good.
Okay. So
it honestly sounds a lot like my co-host here, that he's a jerk.
Well, we
he's
did our 5 people we get along with the most, and DeAndre Baker was one of mine before the arrest. And like 2 weeks later, he gets arrested. So I don't have a good track record with that.
So, okay. So I seem to get along with players a lot of times that other people don't. Like, you get along with people who are like-minded to you, right? A lot of times. So I like to joke, like, I'm an asshole. So I get along with the guys in the locker room that are assholes, generally, which isn't really true. But anyway, so John Jerry, by the way, he was a great guy, but he didn't really talk to anybody. But I had a great relationship with John Jerry. So one time I'm talking to John Jerry, and he's sitting there. And John Jerry's a huge dude, not a physical specimen. He's sitting there, and I'm talking to him. And we're actually talking about the co-eds at Mississippi. He went to Mississippi, right?
Right.
So we're talking about the co-eds, and John Jerry is his body, and he's lotioning his boobs as we talk. Okay? So imagine that.
I am imagining that.
A 350-pound sloppy guy, kind of, and he's lotioning his boobs as we talk. And he's saying, and we're talking about the co-eds in Mississippi, and as we're doing it, he's like, drops his towel and he's lotioning his boobs, and we're just sitting there talking like naturally. Now, when that happens, you're always like looking the other way. You're like, right? You're like talking, but you're like this. But you just continue talking because that's how a locker room works. It's just an awkward situation. And we had this whole conversation, right? And he's lotioning his boobs, and he's getting dressed, and he drops his towel in the middle, and he's getting dressed, and we continue just talking. And I walk out of the locker room afterwards, and I'm like thinking to myself, what an effed up world. Like, what other facet of life can you talk to a naked man lotioning his boobs about the girls on the college campus that he went to, and just continue talking while he drops his pants and not even flinch? Like, just keep talking like it's a normal conversation and be like, and neither of us said anything. And I walked out of here thinking to myself, that is just not normal. Like, if that happened in like the normal realm of life, people would think we're demented, right? I mean, that's just not, if that happened and you were anywhere else, when he drops the towel, you just book and walk. Well, you run away, that conversation is over. But no, not in a locker room. In a locker room, that's just kind of how you operate. So it's a strange environment. I mean, there's guys that love to sit there naked all the time. Like, they're known as the guys who just sit there, and it's just so awkward. And Jameel McClain, remember Jameel McClain used to be a linebacker. He played for the Ravens.
Yeah.
Played for the Giants at one time. So they have like unlimited towels, right? This is an NFL facility. You could get a towel anywhere. This dude used to walk around and cover his junk with a towel. But the towel was like one of those, not even the hand towel, the super minis.
I don't know what the point of that is.
So he sat there and he covered himself with it. Like, dude, get a bigger towel. They're available everywhere. Like, these are the kind of things that the NFL locker room is just like, and nobody says anything. It's just like normal. He was literally, it was like a square like this big. Like, dude, get a normal towel and put it around your waist. But no, it's not how a locker room works.
Jordan, I think you mentioned pre-show you're good friends with the YouTube community, right? I think for your first YouTube video, you should start your own channel, because if you don't do this, we're going to do it. Giants players on the current roster most likely, now you haven't been in the locker room, so you don't know, most likely to be walking around naked all the time.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm sure they would love that. So on the other end of that,
somebody comes to my head. He's not on the team anymore. We used to call him Buck. It was like our own little private name for him because he was always buck naked. So we used to be like, "Oh, Buck was out again," like.
On the other side of that, what's it like? Like, we don't we'll talk with the player here and there, but we're not around them, on the day of the day. And it is weird when it's like you see this person's family member or this person, follows you, and then you're criticizing it. I mean, what's that complex like when you write an article about someone, or you point out like, hey, this guy sucked, and then you're looking at him face to face the next day.
I mean, first of all, you always want to go look a guy face to face if you're going to write something negative about him. But I always like to, I always tell guys, look, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to write, if you play poorly, I'm going to write you play poorly. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, if you do something good, I'm going to write that you did well. But there's both sides of this. And the only way for me to be good at my job is to be honest on both ends. You could help me out. You help me out. And, we talk, you can give me your side of the story. Like, I don't have to assume things. So right. I think it's important to be honest with guys and not snipe them. Like, there's a lot of people who will be super nice to your face and then snipe you from a distance. And then the next day or the next week, first of all, they're never the ones that ask the questions. Okay. That's why I like to ask questions. Because if I'm going to write negative about you, I want to at least ask you about it. I don't want to be the guy who stands in the back, lets someone else like me ask me and a couple other people ask all the hard questions. But then when something bad happens, they'll snipe you. They'll be the first ones to snipe you. And that's the way it works. There's tons of those people around. I'm telling you. You watch who asks questions and who writes certain things. You'll see that there's a lot of people who like to hang in the back, but they're the first ones who will slash you, man. And so I think being upfront and honest with guys, that's the approach that I take. And I really try not to bombard a guy unbeknownst to them. Like when I wrote something about Eli, about he was in the decline. I tried to ask him before, even after the story ran, and someone in the organization told me I wrote his obit. That was a good, nice Eli obit you wrote. Yeah. The next day I was standing in front of his face and I made sure to ask a question because I want him to know if he has anything to say, if he wants to talk about it. I want them to know I'm always there, and they could always tell me, I don't think that was fair. I don't think that was accurate. That's why we're talking to you. I want to give you the opportunity to tell me, your side of the story or your side of why what I wrote or what I said wasn't true.
Well, I want to hear your side of the story because this is something I've only heard of because we told you before. I'm pretty brand new to all this.
Yeah.
And you can not answer this. What happened with you and Ereck Flowers?
Oh, I'll tell you that story. That's no problem. The ironic part was Ereck Flowers is an interesting guy. He's kind of an introvert, right? So there really wasn't any backstory, which is what the crazy part was. It was totally out of nowhere. So we're in the locker room. He played horribly. He got just thrashed. It was a Sunday or Monday night game against the Packers. I forget which one. It might have been
that was a Sunday. Either
Sunday
that was
night.
the debate night. So it's coming to me.
It was a Sunday night or like week 4 or 5, somewhere around there, pretty early in the season. And so Green Bay is an old locker room. So there's like two sides. There's like an offense and a defense. So the offensive side, Odell speaks. There's a gazillion people there. After Odell speaks, everybody kind of went over to the defensive side. And I see Ereck Flowers in the corner of my eye. I'm like, he played horribly. he got just demolished. Clay Matthews killed him in that game. Gave him 3 or 4 sacks. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just go monitor it. Let me see if he's just like, I stunk. I was terrible. I got to do better, blah, blah. So I'm legitimately, and people don't believe this, I'm legitimately standing at a distance. Don't ask a question. Don't say anything. But he apparently harbors a grudge from something in the past. Never fully disclosed to me what it was. I've heard ideas. Like I used to do a video with Chris Snee, and he didn't like that we were critical of him. But a year early, you're talking about a full year earlier at this time.
Oh boy.
So I'm standing at this. I literally did not say a word, didn't ask a question. And he turns and he goes, yo, get the fuck out of here. And I was like, yo, man, I'm just doing my job. And so that happened like 3 or 4 times over. He's like, get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out of here. Takes, and just like, it happened in like 5 seconds. And there was an audio. Nobody has it on video, which is the amazing part. And Mike Garafolo texted me, I believe the next day. I remember this very clearly. And he's like, this is BS. How is there no video? How is it possible in a locker room after a Sunday night game, there's no video of you getting pushed? And it's really true. It's amazing how it all worked out. But yeah, so it happened in like 5 seconds. There was an audio tape. I probably could dig it up if I really wanted to. And it's like, yeah, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. Yo, whoa, bro, hey, whoa, hey. Like that's, and my voice gets real high. And it wasn't like he demolished me. He just put his hand in my chest and pushed me back. Like I was pretty close to the wall. There was a brick wall right behind me. And he just kind of pushed me back like that, like with his hand in the center of my chest real quick. And it all happened. It was like, the whole thing was like 10 seconds. And it was like, whoa, what happened? And so we go up and, I left, went to someone in the Giants, like, yo, you just better make sure your players don't put their hands on me. Like I'm right with you. He can yell at me all he want. Tell him not to put his hands on me.
That's a big ass dude. I think he put up like 35 on the bench, or at the combine.
He's like a big dude.
Like he was basically drafted because of how many times he bench pressed at the combine, and to have to
he was a
that.
big dude, and there was a Giants executive like right here, like right over one of my shoulders, and he was on his phone, and he was just like. And we were all just like, nobody knew what the heck was happening. It just happened so quickly. And so we go upstairs, I was just going to let it go. And I didn't say anything. And Dan Duggan was working for NJ.com at the time. And he was like, there was only like him and some freelancer. We don't really know who the other guy was ever. And he comes up to me upstairs and he goes, I got to write about this, right? he's like, I got it all. He's like, I got it all on tape. I have to write about this. I was like, hey, do what you got to do. And like, it's like 2 a.m. and I like call my bosses. I'm like, and I'm like new on ESPN at this point. And I was like, I got to, and it's like 2 a.m. I was like, I got to kind of tell you like, this is probably going to get out and be a pretty big deal in the morning. This is kind of what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sleeping in Green Bay in this disgusting hotel, the worst hotel literally I've ever stayed in my life. And so 6 o'clock in the morning, I guess they talk about it on Mike and Mike. And my phone is next to my bed. And all I keep hearing is zzz, 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 like text messages. And like, I literally woke up to like 100 text messages and like, every ESPN boss, like all my bosses, like with like voice messages. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And so, yeah, then I'm walking through the airport and the Giants made Ereck Flowers call me and I got a call from like Giants PR. And it's like, yeah, Ereck wants to talk to you. And it's like, hi, this is Ereck. I'm sorry for what I did.
So I think we've learned, if there's a lesson that we learned, it's the anger that festers over long periods of time that will do the most damage. That's the lesson
absolutely. That's the thing. Guys will get mad at you. It happens all the time. You have to learn how to deal with this. Guys are going to get mad at you. They're not going to be happy with something you wrote, or like I had a really good relationship with Justin Pugh, and it blew up in my face. He said, "I hate Philadelphia," meaning he hated the Eagles. Because even though he lived there, he's from there. But like now that he's with the Giants, he doesn't like the Eagles anymore. But the headline that was put on the story was, I hate Philly. Oh. So he got bombarded by everyone that he knows and, back home being like, you're a traitor. What the heck? And he was so mad at me. Like he didn't talk to me he didn't want to talk to me for a year. And he's still like, if I see him now, he'll like, we're fine, but he'll joke about it. He'll be like, you gonna screw me again? Like, and I had to tell him like, there's nothing I can do. He's like, well, I got to hold you responsible for it. Like, you're responsible for, what was out there. And I'm like,
right.
I got to take it on the chin. Like, what am I going to do? And Justin Pugh, who was a great dude and was like one of the go-to nicest guys in the locker room, the go-to guy, great quote, just an amazing guy. Like, didn't talk to me for like a year.
Now, I think for being critiqued as, because you had your comment that you had about, the content creators that, that steal things, whatever. So Bobby may touch on that, but
I will talk about that. No problem.
But what I really like about you is you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok now. I don't know whether I'm sure your daughter plays a role in you having a TikTok.
Yes.
I'm just she forced him.
I don't know how to edit TikTok.
We made one because we have decided it's like if there's some type of social media, we need to attack it. So, like we made a Discord today and realized everyone there's an asshole. And then TikTok, man, it takes me like 20 minutes to make a video that it seems like everyone else has taken 2 seconds.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had no idea. I'm like, hey, could you come over here? My daughter's 9. I'm like, can you come over here and edit this video for me, please? And like, seriously, like that's how it works. But yeah, you on Clubhouse yet?
I have an iPhone 6. I can't download it. See, I just pulled up TikTok so I'm trying to get Clubhouse because, like I said, we're trying to attack everything.
You're a step up from like Ryan Dunleavy, who still has a flip phone of sorts.
Oh my God.
Before this, it literally
he has
was
2 phones, but one is a flip phone. That is a true story.
What I'm about to do, and this shows who I am. I'm about to go to Walmart and buy a prepaid iPhone and just use it as an iTouch because I don't feel like upgrading, on my regular phone.
It's hey,
I need the headphone jack is basically like I have to have the headphone jack.
But here is what makes you unique from the rest of the guys on the beat. I don't follow guys from around the country either, so I'm sure there's other innovative minds. But you're on most of the time, at least for Giants people, they're on Twitter, and then that's it. You're engaging with people on Instagram. You're engaging with people, whether TikTok. I'm sure it's just it's your name in ESPN. I mean, your name and your brand is valuable no matter where it is. So I want to know from you, especially being active on Instagram. Is this something that you wanted to be active and you wanted to do it on your own because it's important? Because the internet is kind of taken over, and why I kind of you had that comment, but also that comment that a lot of content creators got mad at you and a lot of people on Twitter got mad at you for. But also, I feel like you understand that yes, part of my job is to evolve, and even though I'm reporting and even though I'm on writing articles, my name and my brand is still everywhere else. Is that kind of like an active, purposeful thing on your front? Does ESPN make you do it or break it down?
I think I attack it a lot differently than most of the other people on the beat and stuff. Like I even use Twitter, I think, differently. Like I don't send out 50 tweets in a day. I think that's a waste. Like you said, I view it as a marketing tool and for brand purposes. Like, and I want to make sure that it gets the maximum exposure. So, and like you just mentioned, like tonight I went and tweeted a bunch of times. That's just because I was bored and I was sitting down for dinner and nobody was sitting with me. So at my house, so I did it. But like those are kind of wasted tweets. Like,
right.
If I tweet only the really meaningful stuff, I think it reaches much more eyes because they know they're not getting lost in all kinds of garbage. So I really try and do that, especially on Twitter. I probably tweet much less than most everyday beat writers on the Giants beat.
I go through the same thing. I want to tweet about the Nets so much, and I'm not allowed to because I'm trying to keep it, mostly Giants related. So I have like a burner account that I just tweet Nets stuff from all night. So
I have a friend, Adam Levitan. He runs established a run with Evan Silva.
Yeah,
he's been a big fantasy guy and whatever. He's one of my close friends. He always talked about how he's never changing his Twitter profile picture, right? Because that's how people recognize him. That's his brand. He doesn't care that he looks like 15, 20 years younger than he is right now. And looks like he doesn't care. He's going to die with that picture as his avatar because you're so used to it. It's part of his brand. Like when you see that picture, it makes you say, oh, I want to read it because it's him. So I kind of think of I do think of these things a lot, probably more than most people. And look, I always say to people when they say, what advice do you give me? And one of the things I always tell people in the business is, trying to come up in the business, I say, you have to find ways to differentiate yourself. If I'm doing the same thing as everybody else, then why are you going to come to me? Right? Then I'm just another guy. So I'm always looking. And if I ever get to the point where I'm not looking to move forward, and like you said, I do the same thing. Like I'm going to join Clubhouse. I've been thinking about it the last few days. Like I have no idea what it is. Like literally zero.
Yeah.
I know it exists. I have no idea in the world what it is. But if you don't evolve, like I want to at least look at it. I'll sign up for it. I'll see if it's worthwhile. If you don't evolve, you're going to fall behind. And this industry changes constantly. Like, so if you're just so close-minded and old school say, no, I don't want to do that, you're going to be left behind. It's inevitable. So you have to be open-minded. That's kind of how I view it. And I do view it as my brand. And I always fight back and forth on the Instagram part of it, of how much do I really, and people say, why do you do all that? Why do you show all that stuff with your family then? And why do you do that? And I do fight with myself on that of like, what's the line of, being work and personal and showing my family. And I don't know. I just try and be open and show you like who I am. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to be phony and showing, stuff that we don't really do. Like, I don't know. So that's kind of the way I approach it and what I try and do with my social. And look, I made mistakes along the way, like everybody else. I've tweeted stuff I shouldn't have tweeted, where bosses call you up and say, we don't really want you tweeting that. You
got an example?
Probably should avoid saying that. I mean, like when I, tweeted about Paul Dottino a couple times.
Oh, Paul Dottino, he blocked I tweeted at him one time and he blocked me. He needs to have a little.
But it was just, there's no reason to go. Like, I don't need to go there. There's a lot of times, like how you punch in a tweet and you have the text tweet ready to go, and then you're like, you exit out or you're thinking about it. The second you think about it, right? This is advice. Anybody, the second you even think about deleting it means you should delete it right away. Like, if you even have to think about whether it's right or wrong, delete it. Trust me, delete it.
I say I can't do that though. That's how I get myself in trouble.
Bobby usually texts me and says, "Is this okay?" And
if you sent that text, that tells you all you need to know about it.
But it's
delete it.
Sometimes I go for it, and then we're getting text from our boss. But then sometimes okay, we're playing the Chicago Bears week 2, and I get this dumb idea. I was like, it'd be funny if we put it on Instagram, someone shooting a bear like that. It's not funny that happened. Like, I love animals. I don't want to see. It's like, we're playing the Bears. And that became something that our listeners look forward to. But I felt like in the just by itself, and you're looking at me like I'm a madman because I am. And it's like, it's a horrible thing. But it became by like week 16, it's like, okay, what type of video are they going to post of a cardinal being shot down by like bazookas or something? So,
I mean,
I feel like it helps me sometimes.
What kind of society are we in where there's something wrong with that? I mean, this is not. That's obviously playfully,
You'd be surprised at some of the replies. It shouldn't be taken
seriously. Look, you don't have to tell me. I understand the feedback you get on some of those, but it shouldn't be a problem. Like, it's obviously a joke that wasn't to be meant to be.
And when you're being authentic, which I mean, that's what I think you are. I in my opinion, I think online it kind of takes guts to show parts of your life. To say what you want to say in your content, even if it's critical about some guys, some players, about the team. Show what you want to show about your life, show your face, and interact with people, and then also handle the heat that comes your way. I think it takes a level of guts rather than not showing your face, kind of not showing a different side of your life, and then just maybe crapping on other people, and then not being able to take it.
Well, that's why I think it's important to humanize yourself sometimes.
Correct.
Because otherwise you're just some Twitter avatar, or social media avatar where people think you just aren't even human. Like, and some of the comments are so outrageous and so ridiculous that you're just like, what's wrong with these people? Like, seriously, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm going to go back to my family and my life over here and not worry about like the 6th safety on the Giants roster, and like calling the guy names, like, like you got to put things in perspective. Like we're all human beings here. So I think it's important that's why I like to post some of the family stuff.
Yeah.
And this is me. I'm a human being. I'm I'm like a real person. I'm not just some, propped up figure, like, figurehead here. And he's, hey, look, there's Jordan. Let's throw tomatoes at his head or call him names.
So you get a lot of that. And obviously there was, and it's actually how we connected was, someone's like, I don't go to beat reporters. I go there. And you said, look, the people see our content. What was it like?
Okay.
How much did that suck getting that backlash? Because, we understood what you're saying because there's people that steal stuff. I mean, I'll do the breakdown videos, Jordan, and I'll see Instagram pages like you were talking about, and they literally just post the same video and like it's no tagging. So I get that, but it did not get taken that way at all. And so, I mean, I haven't seen a beat reporter get that much heat in since I've been doing this.
Yeah, there were some people that were coming at me every day, but it goes away. You have to realize that. You just stop looking. You don't look at your mentions. You don't worry about it. And like, look, I don't even regret what I said because if you're getting all upset, is it because you're one of these people that are actually taking it? Because there are, like you said, the people that I'm talking about, and like you said, they're out there. Like I bumped into an Instagram account yesterday. It had like 30,000 followers, Giants, who knows, whatever the stupid handle name is. And they basically regurgitate a lot of what's being reported. No credit whatsoever. Like just totally lift it and just say it as if it came out of midair. And they're like a popular Giants. Like those are the people I'm talking about. So, I mean, I have no regrets saying it because those people bother the hell out of me. Like there's plenty of accounts. If you go search on Instagram, like what did I report recently? Oh, that was a note. Okay, Jason Garrett returning. How about that? If you like go and search on Instagram and look about that, you'll find like 50 Giants sites out there that just take it and say Jason Garrett's not returning. And then like these sites end up being more popular than this actual source.
Yep.
And you're just like, how the hell does that happen?
Instagram's kind of like the wild, wild west with that, where it's like no one gets called out on it. So
totally.
I'll ask you this.
It's very weird. It's very weird. And I really wasn't even talking about YouTube. And I know that took a lot of people on YouTube are the ones that took that personally. I was really mostly talking about the people on Instagram because there are so many just random Instagram accounts. Now I'm sure there's people on YouTube. Honestly, I don't go specifically. That's not my user habits. I don't go specifically to YouTube very often. Like if I see stuff on Twitter or Instagram that brings me to an interesting YouTube video that I see, that's how I get there most of the time. I don't just go search on YouTube. That's just my habits. I don't know.
So what do you prefer? So we have like the Talking Giants page on Twitter, and we try to put information out there. So you say that the Giants are cutting Shaquille Taylor. Do you prefer just the regular old retweet, or the Giants are cutting Shaquille Taylor per Jordan Raanan?
Honestly, I really don't care that much. I just don't appreciate when some random accounts just steal shit. I mean, that's it. It's pretty simple. I don't care how you say it. I mean, some people say per Jordan Raanan. It won't even, link back to me. They won't even, that's fine. I don't even, honestly, there's no way of stopping it. That's the problem. I wish there was a way where you can have, what you say and what you report, you own the rights to it. But I mean, that's just not the real world, and there's no way around it. So I don't know. Look, think about it.
Yeah, it sucks, and no one notices it until it's happening to you too. So it's like,
right. I mean,
no one's supposed to understand with me when I'm like, I feel like this person is just regurgitating everything I say. But it's like anyone else who's looking from the outside, it's like, no, you're probably just overthinking it.
Yeah, 99% of the time, I don't even notice, right? It's just like you bump into it once in a while. You're like, the hell is this? Oh my God, that's word for word what I just tweeted on someone else's account on Instagram. It's like, but 99% of the time, like, I never say anything because you have to learn it. That's part of how this works. Like there's really no way around it. Once in a while, that was the rare instance where I had bumped into something that day that pissed me off, and I wrote the tweet that I probably should have X'd out on, and then I hit it. Because, like, let's be honest, Giants web page 7.0 on Instagram doesn't really even give a crap. So me saying anything, what's that even doing? It really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm not succeeding by
Well, it did something.
people
It
stop.
pissed people off. I'll say the one thing I found
It
funny
succeeded
from
in
that.
pissing people off, but not it succeeded in what I was what I would wish would accomplish. But what did I accomplish besides pissing people off? Which,
See,
even though you might think differently, I don't enjoy pissing people off. I don't care because I try not to pay attention to it that much. But like, nobody likes when people are just like constantly trolling you, calling you, whatever they want, that day.
Oh yeah, everybody cares at least a little bit. It sucks. Like you said, you get that. Like, someone had to tell me when I first started doing this, like, you got to chill, like, because I was just like you would never say this to me in person. Like I was going off on people, and someone's like, dude, like no one cares. It's like who cares? Like, this is what Twitter is. I will say the one thing that I did make me laugh, and this may have pissed you off, is people started quote tweeting all your tweets and saying, according to like Bobby Skinner or this account, this, like, I bet that ticked you off, but I'll be honest, I got a chuckle.
No, it really does. It really didn't. I mean, it's funny after the fact, and it's like, I got to deal with it, and you just laugh it off, and like. I wish this person, I mean, would have something better to do with their time than to tweet me like 50 times every day. Like, but like, that's what I tell myself. Like, oh my God, this person's really relentless. Like, and I refuse. There's something random fact about me. Never have I ever blocked somebody.
Why not?
Because I'll just suck it up. I could take it.
My problem is I try.
There's a line. Don't bring my family. Don't bring my family into it. That's it.
See, I tried the mute button, and then the issue is people respond to those people, and then you can see view. So I have recently, I've only blocked compared to you, I have a lot. I've blocked like 20 people, but I have thin skin, so it's like people can get on my nerves. So if at some point I just I'm blocking these people.
I have people muted, but that's only because they tweet too much, and it just like bogs me down, and like they get stuck in the rabbit hole, and I just don't want to go down there. But like you said, I see the meaningful tweets from those people that I need to. And I'm talking about like media people, because they basically get retweeted or they end up back on my timeline in some way, shape, or form anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I just basically muting all the just like crazy, 50 tweets in a row, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So we've gone for a while. I'll finish on this. I like to ask you guys, what don't you like about us?
What don't I like about you?
There's got to be something.
No, there really isn't. I don't mind. I like that you bring a different perspective. I mean, look, it's an interesting part about ESPN. It's a very different beast. You can't, there's different rules. Like everybody has to follow kind of different guidelines, right?
Yeah.
So, I used to like to do and go into tape stuff and then be able to bring it back to, people I trust and ask them behind the scenes and then try and present it. I can't do that anymore. Like, there's, you have to be very careful with video. I have to be more careful with video, I think, now than I've probably ever been. Just because, there are rules. You're only really allowed to use so many seconds and this and that. So, like, is it really worth me doing these things and then that, it possibly coming back to ESPN? Like, it's not even worth me putting anybody at risk like that. So I appreciate when you guys do that stuff, because it's stuff that I can't really do at this point. And I like it, to be honest with you. What don't I like? I mean, I don't like when people are like, come back to like, yeah, you suck. You're no Bobby Skinner.
I always feel so awkward. It's like, I love compliments. I'm a sucker for compliments.
You can't break down film like Bobby. Like, no, I can't. Big deal. So like, that's not what I do.
I'm a sucker for compliments, but it's like, oh, I can't like that one. Like that's mean. So
you're a sucker for compliments, yet I try to compliment Bobby all the time, and he gets very uncomfortable.
I hate compliments to my face, is what I'm saying.
Yes. All right.
I do too. I love compliments. I love when people like tell me how good, like, oh, you're awesome. But I get awkward when they like say it to me. Like I just immediately try and deflect. Like to instantly try and deflect, especially when it's in person, because it's so awkward.
Justin will get mad at me.
I just try and make a random joke about something else, or like change the subject, or I don't know. That's just how I operate. But
Justin's yelled at me.
Deep down, I like it like everybody else. Don't tell me you don't.
Yeah. But just like I'm the same way. Justin's yelled at me before because he'd be like, good job on that video. I'm like, it wasn't that good. And he'd be like, can you just let me compliment you without saying that it's not that special.
Yeah, well, that's when someone's like, good break. I was like, I got lucky. I fell into it. It just fell in my lap. And they're like, get the F out of here. We don't care how you got it. You should take credit for it. It's like, I fine, but I won't say that. I have to like immediately just be like, I got lucky.
Well, we're big believers of positive affirmation on this podcast. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, there was one important question I wanted to ask him, and maybe this can be a next time thing because we'll get closer to the summer. God willing, we're allowed in training camp. In 2019, I did any day that I could go, I did a Jordan Raanan picture of your drip of what you were wearing for training camp. You are the most stylish beat reporter.
Visor, man.
The visor and the sneakers.
Which, by the way, people don't consider the visor stylish anymore. That's you're old and outdated when you wear visors, apparently.
No. You got the hair for it.
Cargo shorts, too. Did you know that cargo shorts are like for old men?
Yeah, I still wear them like crazy.
You pull it off.
They're so practical. I don't understand. They're so practical. I don't understand how they're all for old men. Who wouldn't want pockets when you're walking around and doing stuff? Like I want shorts with no pockets. Who wants shorts with no pockets?
I hear you, man.
I look forward to training camp because what I did in 2019, the last time we were there, is I would creepily take pictures of you and I would tag you, Jordan Raanan style update.
Trust me, I know. I remember.
So I'm looking forward to doing that again. Thank you for.
There's a reason behind this. So when I first took the Giants job, I went out to dinner with someone. It was at the Super Bowl. I was actually in the one here in New Jersey, and the guy's wife, who he was a reporter. The other guy's wife said, how you dress is very important. It's an easy, good way to relate with the players. It really does. It's one of the best ways to relate to players. Like I can't relate to them in a lot of ways, right? They're so much younger than me now, like a different generation. I used to be the same contemporary as players, but now I'm contemporaries with the coach. But fashion is a way you can relate to players, and they do take to it. It was a great little tip, and it always comes back to I always think about it like, should I buy this? And then I'm like, spend the extra money. Remember how she said it's an investment, because remember how she said, players take note of these kind of things.
So we should send you like our Talking Giants versus the World shirts and Shake and Bake shirts.
Yeah, I was about to say, where's the shirt that Joe Judge? Did you send it to him?
Yeah, they got it.
Okay.
Here's something, and I know we keep on saying we're gonna let you go. I felt so grimy ambushing him. I felt so grimy, and he saved me by knowing what I was talking about and then putting two and two together.
You should feel grimy, actually. They're used to this. He's a normal guy. This is what I like about him. From what I've known, he seems to understand like how this all works, and he's able to interact with people on a human basis, where most times coaches are really awkward human beings. Like, I got along well with McAdoo, but he's a little strange bird. Pat Shermer too, very strange. Like interpersonal skills, just they're not natural with them. You can have like a normal conversation with Joe Judge, so like that's why he's able to just laugh it off and make a normal conversation of it. That's why I think he's going to be successful. He has an ability to talk and be relatable to pretty much everybody. And like he did it with you right there. I saw the video. He did it with you right there. That's the way he does. He does that with everybody, and it's impressive because remember, a lot of those guys in the Belichick tree also not shady, but awkward interpersonal skills. Just like Eric Mangini, they tried to be, Matt Patricia. They were just so unlikable.
Yeah.
Joe Judge has a likable side to him. You saw it there too.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like him and Pat Grant like. They saved me though, because I was like, this. If I would have asked any other question, he probably would have been like, all right, because I mean, I ambushed him and I hated it. But
that's kind of what you do. You're part of the media now, man.
I hate that. When people say that.
That's what we do.
I'm the scumbag media, just like you and ESPN and
you'd be surprised.
NJ.com.
You'd be surprised at how many people, like guys, they'll just open up and tell you stuff, and you'll be like, okay, like just go up to a random guy like that, like he doesn't know you, and then they open and they just start talking and telling you stuff, and you're like, oh, look at this story I just got.
Hey, we got stuff. We got, we got some people. They may be, the bigger guys on the team because they like some of my work, but we got stuff.
Well, what
right,
we do, I know, Bob, you're gonna wrap us up. What we do is we don't break it. We just then go on the podcast and say, I think this is gonna happen. I really think this is gonna happen, and then we sound smart. We don't break it. We just sound smart.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to do it, because that's actually how everybody works. You would be surprised. There's a lot of things that people know, and then you pretend like you're like, you give informed opinions, and you say, I think this is going to happen. And then guess what? It happens.
Yeah. Love it.
Magic. Look at that. Oh my God.
All right. Sounds good. We appreciate you. Go follow Jordan. He's up and coming
my wife just yelled
podcaster.
at me. She said I have to be quiet because my little guy just went to sleep, trying to go to sleep.
Tell her you're making a TikTok or something, and then she'll
I know.
understand. All right, Jordan. We appreciate you, man. Thanks.
All right, guys. Anytime.
All right, that's the show. Thank you, Jordan Raanan, for joining. Tweet nice things at him. How about that? So you liked him on Talking Giants. How about that? Because guess what? Help us. Help us. Help us. Help us. Think about that. Seriously. We're trying to get better stuff for you guys. People liking us helps. It just does. It's just the flat out rules of life right there.
Building relationships is a good thing.
Hey, and you guys know we'll burn a bridge when we need to. Like seriously, like we ain't like if we don't want to be friends with someone, we won't be. You guys saw my breakdowns with cactuses and stuff of those natures. We ain't trying to be friends with everybody, but there are people we're trying to be coolio with. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Friday. Guess what? If no big news breaks, guess what's coming on Friday, Justin?
Oh boy. I know it's coming next Monday. What's coming on Friday?
The O-line year-end review, which was one of our most controversial episodes last season. Remember that? Remember the stir it had when we thought we had a harmless clip about Nate Solder, and it turned into a big thing. So appreciate you guys. New stickers. Hit me up. Hit me up for the new stickers. Appreciate you guys. See you on Friday. Until then, let's go Big Blue.